Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is the Prince of Flame, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and also be sure to hit that notification bell. That way, you'll indeed be notified for any awesome videos like this in the future. www.escapehorrorland.com was much of my childhood. I don't know if anybody else remembered this video game, but I sure as hell did. In fact, it was one of the first video games, if you can even call it that, that I completed as a kid. www.escapehorrorland.com was a website slash ARG slash online game that came out to coincide with the release of the brand new Goosebumps series, Goosebumps Horrorland, which was a series of books that, when purchased at the same time, would tell a consistent story after the epilogue of course, each of the stories that each of the books focused on. There would be a small snippet of lore that you would have characters from that particular story get invited to Horrorland and vice versa. So I was really happy to have a game that was about Goosebumps, a franchise that I had thus grew up with at this point. So after several years, this was not something that I completed in a couple of days or even a week. This took me several years to complete. But when I did, I was super happy. So after I defeated Slappy at the end of the game and that edgy rock music started to play, I was quite happy with myself. I had played this game for a couple years, I'd say maybe 2 or even 2.5 years, I'm not sure, it was years ago, but it was a great experience, I'd say. The music, the theme for the game was super cool, I liked the point and click style, and obviously all the different attractions, the different rides, and the different games you could play within Horrorland was full of nods to not only just Horrorland itself, but Goosebumps characters. And me being a huge Goosebumps fan as a kid, this was awesome. The one interesting thing that I might change looking back at it now is they should not have done Mr. Wood as the protagonist of the game, as the hero that you play as, because Mr. Wood was not a nice character in the book he debuted in, which was Night of the Living Dummy. In fact, most of that book isn't even about Slappy, it's about Mr. Wood, and in that story, yes, Mr. Wood is evil. But in this concept, he's actually a good guy, and he's actually, going through Horrorland, going on all the rides, completing all the challenges and all the puzzles, and eventually makes his way to Slappy, and defeats him. But the interesting thing about it is that he's not a hero by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he was a villain throughout most of his first appearance. So I thought it was strange that they had made him the protagonist that we play as instead of one of the many characters that were featured in the book series that went alongside this video game. And what I mean by that is that this franchise had otherwise been dead before Goosebumps Horrorland and the www.escapehorrorland.com website. So these were both created at the same time to kind of revive and resurrect what had been dead for a while. And it worked successfully. It was able to bring Goosebumps back to life, and we still have Goosebumps being sold in our local Walmarts, our local Kohl's, our local bookstores, everywhere for everybody to enjoy. And instead of playing as Mr. Wood, we could have played as one, if not a couple, of the various characters that appear in the Goosebumps Horrorland series. In fact, the Goosebumps Horrorland video game literally has no story elements that were carried over from the book series, even though these are supposed to be tie-in materials, and ultimately we played as Mr. Wood. There were no nods to any of the characters appearing in the book series, and it was just kind of its own thing. You had Mr. Wood traveling across Horrorland, playing the different games, and going to the different areas, and that's it. With that criticism out of the way, I did not hate this game. As a kid, I loved it. I was on the computer every chance I got, playing this game and unlocking new levels. And the whole gimmick of the books was that you had to get all the books in order to, know the whole story. But you also had to get the books because each of those books would unlock, I guess, a specific area in the amusement park. However, you really didn't need the books. In fact, I only had, I believe, three of the Goosebumps Horrorland books, and I completed the whole game without using a single book to unlock anything. One of my favorite levels of the game was the werewolf petting zoo. And obviously, it was my favorite because as a kid, and I guess to some degree nowadays too, werewolves are my favorite monster. And in this level, you had a bunch of werewolves that were living in the forest and that were imprisoned in the werewolf petting zoo. And you had to try to get through the werewolf petting zoo without being eaten or killed by werewolves. Not that they would like to taste Mr. Wood because he's just that, made of wood, and they would probably just break him and then move on. That's really dark. For a kid's game, that's really dark. But it was my favorite level, the werewolf level, because you could see all the different werewolves, and you had to go past them in the werewolf petting zoo, and they were all chained up and, imprisoned in these little cages, and it was pretty cool. And then, obviously, during the forest area part, they were obviously running through the forest, and you had to try to avoid them. It was a pretty cool and fun level. Another interesting aspect of the game is how Madame Doom was implemented. She is a fortune teller in the same realm as kind of those old fortune teller machines that you would see at carnivals. And that is essentially what Madame Doom is. She exists in the game to offer help and clues to how to beat a level in the game, and she made her first appearance in the actual Goosebumps Horrorland series, which was obviously tied into this whole Goosebumps Enter Horrorland video game that I'm talking about. It was a great game. I wish they would bring it back just so I could revisit it and just play it again and see if I am somewhat better at the game now that I'm an adult. But let me know if any of you guys remember this game or not, if you enjoyed it, if you hated it. I'd love to hear about this in the comments below. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed tonight's video. Do take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever that may be.